This conference will now be recorded.
We'll give it a few more minutes to allow everybody to join us, and we will be getting started shortly.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes. No?
Yes.
All right. Good deal. Good deal. Is Erica on yet with the presentation?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Well, I assume you were waiting on me. Were we waiting on me? Because if so, we can get started.
Yeah, I was. Hang on.
All right. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all for participating today. My name is Paul Young. I serve as the Director of Housing and Community Development for the City of Memphis, and excited to talk to you all today about the relaunch of our home program. And under the home funding program, we have various specific named programs, and so we'll get into those later. But suffice it to say that these funds that we'll talk about today are for the development of affordable housing units. We'll get into how those dollars can be applied and what it takes to get those, but I'm really, really excited about this round and this launch because now we are shifting to a mode where we don't actually close it. It's a revolving cycle of funds. And so once we open this round, you will have an opportunity to submit an application each month, and we will process that application until funds are exhausted. And once the funds are exhausted, we'll wait on the next year for funds to come back in, and we'll open it up again. And so One of the things that we've been trying to do in HCD is try and move at the speed of development. And we understand that when we open up our programs once a year, it doesn't always align with how funding cycles work for real estate development projects, whether it's people using traditional tax credits or just where they are in the timing of their acquisition and pro formas and all the things that it takes to get the development done. We understand that within the limited window that we had previously, it was not always possible to get deals done. And we oftentimes got applications that weren't ready, and we would have to reject those applications because developers were really pushing to meet our deadline as opposed to applying when their projects were ready. We do believe that now we have an opportunity to give more complete applications and to fund projects when they are ready. And so excited to have this discussion with you all today. I'm going to turn it over to the team to talk us through the presentation. We'll have an opportunity for Q&A at the end. I'll encourage you all to please type your questions into the chat. We want to try and limit how many speakers we have because you know that can get a bit chaotic. So if you can put your questions in the chat, that would be very, very helpful. And from here, I'm going to turn it over to Twyla Guest, who is the administrator for our Office of Affordable Housing.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Director Young. As the director said, we are excited to be launching this relaunch the home program because we're ready to do more development within the city of Memphis. So we will start with our first slide. Okay, the Home Investment Partnership Program under the Affordable Housing Department is an expansion of funding opportunities under HCD's real estate development application. Previously, we only had NIDO program on a rolling basis, but now we will have the affordable housing projects on a rolling basis as well. Okay, some of you may say, well, what is home? Well, home is basically our funding source that we receive from HUD, which is our funder. And the primary objective of home is to create affordable housing for rent or home ownership by providing funding to provide safe, quality, and affordable housing for low to moderate income households, expand the capacity of nonprofit and for-profit housing developers, also strengthen the ability of state and local governments to provide housing, and leverage private sector participation. Next slide. The eligible activities under the program includes new construction and rehabilitation of housing for rent or home ownership, site acquisition, also demolition of dilapidated housing to create a home-assisted development. Recently, President Biden just signed the American Rescue Plan, and in that plan, they've allocated more funding of dollars for home funds. And we will keep you abreast of that as we receive more information in the future about those funds. Next, we will have Tanya Coleman to speak to you as it relates to compliance. Tanya.
Hi, my name is Tanya Coleman. I am the Compliance and Monitoring Administrator for HCD. And just to give you a little bit of information on the cross-cutting regulations that accompany the home program. So the Compliance Department is responsible for ensuring all federal funded programs that includes the home program that is administered by HCD. The cross-cutting guidelines are environmental review before an environmental review has to be completed before any project is funded. So environmental review, Davis-Bacon, which are labor standards, Section 3, the Americans with Disability Act, and Section 504, and the Violence Against Women Act. And just also to let you know that the home program can be found in the Federal Code of Regulations, Federal Code of Regulations 24. Part 92.
Good morning. My name is Mari Albertson. I'm the Deputy Director here at Housing and Community Development. I'm just going to quickly go through some of the home requirements. As was mentioned in the intro, you know, home is it can be a difficult program to administer, and you know, was one of the reasons that we decided to have applications available all the time, as the director mentioned, is because we want to solicit projects that are ready to go. So the requirements I'm going to present just will give you a sense of the type of information that we will need at the time of application, because we won't be able to make commitments of home funds until we have all of this information. So the first one is that a project is tied to a property location, such as an address or a parcel ID. So that information must be determined at the onset. So applicants have to have site control and provide proof of ownership, or you know, an agreement with the property owner or the real estate application. So if your address changes through the life of your application to contract, the entire scope of work really changes, because it's considered by home to be a different project. So a contract amendment would have to be created. The project would have to be re-underwritten. So it's important that you know what your project is in terms of what that location is. We also are required by HUD to have firm financial commitments from any other funding sources that are part of the project. So commitment letters that are firm financial commitments must be completed and attached to the application. And then if the funding source happens to be a loan, you have to have the terms of the loan written on the letter. Next slide, please. So home is really intended to be a gap financing tool. So one of the things we've changed, we don't have maximum amounts as part of the agreement, as part of the application, as we did in the past, but we need just the requested amount that you need to fill a financial gap of the project. So underwriting will be conducted for all submitted projects to look at the subsidy needed from home, look at all of your other funding sources, and looking at the financial feasibility of the project. So contract revisions for awarded projects must be approved by HCD, or if there's a change in your property management company. We have to have approval to withdraw any of reserves. And then the city's position within the project will be, in terms of lending, will be in a first position. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So a helpful document that explains really all of these items that are needed for us to be able to make a commitment of home funds are included in a HUD document that is HUD CPD, which is Community Planning and Development Notice 1509. So HUD issued this notice when some of the home program regulations changed in 2013. Some of the items, you can Google it and download it. It is a really helpful and straightforward document in terms of what is needed. But basically, each project must be associated with our approved action plan that we submit to HUD. As Tanya mentioned, each project must have an environmental review completed, must have an identifiable address, and must have an assessment or an appraisal to identify the market demand for the project. Then each project has to have all of the necessary financing secured. As I mentioned, we need to have all of those financial commitments submitted with your application at the time of application. So each project will undergo a subsidy layering analysis as well as underwriting. And some of the things that we look at will be the developer capacity as well as your schedule, because we do have a time frame that we must expend home funds. So we want to make sure that projects we select can meet that time frame. Then all parties that are part of the project have to be identified in the legally binding agreement or our contract between the developer and the city. And then in terms of development subsidy, no project receiving home funds can be over subsidized, and the home funded construction financing will be treated as a loan.
So did you continue to work at Upload Design Defense? Right.
Okay, can everybody please mute yourselves?
I have no further questions.
Because we're getting some feedback and comments where people are not able to hear the speaker. Thank you. Next, we will talk about the overview of affordable housing programs, which is inclusive of community housing development organizations, also affordable home build partnership program, and also affordable rental partnership program. Next slide, please. Okay, the total overview basically are for nonprofit housing developers, whereas at least 15% set aside funds are available for affordable housing activities. And eligibility to be a CHOTO includes organized for a purpose of safe quality of affordable housing, no individual benefit to members, a clearly defined geographic service area, which means you have boundaries within the neighborhood you're working, your nonprofit status, 501c3 or 501c4, and also a board that is representative of the community that it serves with at least 1/3 members of the community. Also, you must demonstrate at least 1 year of experience in serving the community where you will be developing your houses. And those eligible activities for the CHOTO program include acquisition, construction, and or rehabilitation of housing. Next, we will have Jocelyn Eddings talk about the programs in which she administers as well. Jocelyn?
And you understand that those cities were required.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to first speak to you about the Affordable Home Build Partnership Program. So next slide, please.
Yes. And we have an opportunity to review the first. Sure. All right. So I just want to walk through again. We've now watched a few videos from the inside the
Hey,
store.
as we're getting those back up and running, Miss Barbara Terrell, I know you stepped away from the screen. I don't know if you can hear us, but it's your microphone that needs to be muted. If you could please mute the mic, that would be great. I see you coming back to the screen now. If you could please mute, that would be great. Thank you. Go ahead, Jocelyn.
Okay. So for the Affordable Home Build Partnership Program, it's allowable for the acquisition, construction, rehabilitation, or demolition of for sale single-family housing. The housing must serve a low to moderate income population as determined by HUD, and there are charts to detail that. Low to moderate income populations are those with incomes at the area 80% of the area median income or less. All single-family housing cannot exceed a sales price of $254,877, which is 95% of the median purchase price for the area based on the FHA single-family mortgage program data for new construction. And those are just the basic requirements for the Affordable Home Build Partnership Program. Next slide. Now I'll speak about the Affordable Rental Partnership Program. This program is also for the acquisition, construction, rehabilitation, or demolition of affordable rental multifamily housing and single-family housing that's rental for nonprofits only. Again, housing must serve low to moderate income population as determined by HUD. The rents cannot exceed limits that are determined by HUD, and all tenants of any of the home assisted units must meet the income guidelines that are determined by HUD. All of the charts or the income limits and the rent limits are available on HUD's website. Thank you.
Okay, now we will have National Development Council to discuss the application. That will be Sheldon Barton.
Good morning. Thank you. The city will make available via its website a application for these programs. It should already be on the website, and it is an Excel format, which we will review briefly in a few moments. But the process, as pointed out earlier in the presentation, is open-ended. However, the city is looking for completed applications. And the application, which you can download and complete in Excel format, will not allow you to proceed if you do not meet certain parameters of completed. Again, we'll review those in a few moments. Once the city receives your application, it will be reviewed for completeness. 15 days. Sorry, this is really small for me. There we go. And it will undergo threshold review, scoring, and ranking an additional 5 days. City staff will then do some preliminary underwriting an additional 15 days. Pass it through that, an applicant interview will be scheduled.
Hey, Sheldon, I wanted to just stop you real quick. We can't hear you very well, so if you can
How about now?
speak a little bit closer.
Is that better?
Slightly, but not as good.
How about now? How about now?
That's better. That's better.
I apologize. Technology. So once next step would be providing additional information should it be requested from the city. 2 weeks, 15 days additional. Feasibility analysis, underwriting, and public benefit and negotiation of a contract, additional 50 days. Notification of preliminary award, conditional commitment of funds within 2 days. Due diligence, that is when the financing letters, market study, et cetera, about 45 days. And contract execution. This is the document that will bind the selected developer with the and other parties to make the project complete. So it is a well thought out and step-by-step process. If you want to go to the next slide, will give me control so I can briefly review the presentation, the application.
Yes. Hang on 1 second, Sheldon.
And Sheldon, anything you can do to help on your sound would be greatly appreciated. I think it's still a little fuzzy for everyone.
How about now?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay.
It's better. Just speak as loud as you can.
I'll do my best, Paul.
And for those that are asking about the slides, we will make sure that you're able to get the slides after the fact. And I know the writing was small on some of those, so just stay tuned on that.
So I am going to assume that everyone is viewing my screen,
Yes.
which shows an Excel spreadsheet with multiple tabs in it. And included in it is the overview of the timeline, what the city's evaluation criteria for real estate home picture projects are, a submission checklist. Wherever it's blue right here, you can select what your project is: affordable housing, general real estate development, CHODO, etc. And there are instructions and drop-down boxes. Whenever you complete these, in some cases, they must be provided. In some, only as applicable. And the drop-down will allow you to determine attached or not applicable. The spreadsheet is scored, so every time you go through and complete what you must complete, submit a completed application, this spreadsheet will allow you to progress or not. And when I mean progress, it means sign it and submit it. There are multiple exhibits and they all relate to additional tabs. For example, threshold requirements, general information of applicant, property manager, etc. Breaks it all down for you. There's an executive summary that needs to be complete. A funding schedule. More detailed development information. Your experience or your development partner's experience and capacity must be complete. How ready is your project in terms of pulling the trigger and getting shovels in the ground for rehabilitation done? The city wants to know what are the surrounding location amenities within 1 mile, etc., etc. Drop boxes exist, and when I ask you to describe or fill in, please do so. There are HUD regulatory conditions tab that must be completed, as well as an attached board listing for CHODO. There is an efficient use of federal funding tab. The Affirmative Fair Housing Marketing Plan. You must go through and follow the instructions. Residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance. Again, please review carefully, make your selections, and complete. You should have a Dun & Bradstreet number. If you don't have one, this spreadsheet or this tab will tell you how to do that. It's also telling you that the city will do some homework. There is a conflict of interest tab. Please review. And the authorized signer for the project should initial. There's a conflict of interest and an environmental acknowledgement. Conflict of interest form must be completed. Another tab discusses project underwriting. Read all of it, make your selection, and again requires a signature. Small Women and Minority Business Enterprises tab. Read. There are forms that can be accessed via these links. Select, again, must be signed. Section 3 Opportunity Plan. Review. There is a form, accessible. If you wish to apply to become Section 3 certified business of Memphis, selections, initials, date. And finally, the signature page. It's in red. This will not change to green and allow a signature unless you have selected the minimum requirements on this submission checklist. Additionally, if the initials are not entered into the required boxes on Section 3, Small Women Minority Business Enterprises, Underwriting and Labor Compliance, Environmental Acknowledgement, and Conflict of Interest, you will not be permitted to proceed. Once everything and your application is complete as possible, this will turn to green, this will turn to green, allowing you to sign, save, and submit to the system. Thank you. I turn it back over to the city.
Okay, thank you, Sheldon. Erica, if we could go back to the presentation. And thank you all for sitting in on the meeting on today. We will have this information available on our website as soon as we close out here. So you will be able to view the presentation slides as well, and also the actual recording from today, and along with the actual application for everyone who's interested in applying for funding. Okay, so here we're talking about, and this will be the close up, wrap up part of our session this morning, the application step by step. Your applications will be evaluated according to your threshold assessment project, as well as underwriting review, which we talked about earlier. Incomplete applications will not be considered, and applications not meeting the threshold criteria will not be considered as well. We can go to the next slide. All right, so you must meet the following criteria, and you'll see them listed here as far as the requirements. Where the project serves at least households of at least 80% or below the area median income, and also make sure that your project complies with the HUD multifamily form that is also included in the application, and the projects must be included inside the city of Memphis along with your site plan, and also list what uses you're looking to use the home funds for, and show that you have site control of your projects you're wanting to work on. Also provide an appraisal supporting documentation to show how much your property is worth. And those are the exhibits to the right. If we could go to the next slide, please. And this just basically talks about the application itself. And Sheldon went over everything more in detail, but this information basically lists everything that you have to fill out in your application. And also you see a nice picture of one of our projects that was done with home funds, which basically is titled Art Space. And we had some previous pictures of some of our other projects done for some of our other organizations as well. All right. Next we have Q&A, and I saw we had some questions in the chat. If you could type your questions in your chat, and if we don't get to them, we will basically answer the question and put those on the website so everybody can view the questions as well as the answers. So we're now open for Q&A.
I have a question.
Okay.
Is there any help with completing these applications? Is there anyone we can sit down with and find out what we really, I mean, I know we can read these things, but in many instances, we're doing this for the first time. So we really don't know. We want to make sure that when we do sit down to do this, that we can complete it properly. Is there any help to be extended?
Yes, ma'am. We would actually assist you with that if you're needing assistance. There's an email address. I don't know if you all could see it on there where you can email or call, and we will get in touch with you and talk to you about your application, because we do know that this is a new application for everybody because we revised it. So if you do have questions, send us an email and just let us know, hey, we need some help with this, and we will work with you on it.
I can't see this from my phone, so are you able to give me that email now, or can pick it up some other way?
Yes, thank you, Erica. She just actually typed it in the chat line. You can you can't see it on there. I can give it to you now.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you able? Okay. It's HCD.
HC.
H as in housing. CD. Real estate. All one word. Applications.
Application with an S?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
At Memphis TN. .gov.
I got you. I'm gonna give that back to you. HCD real estate applications at Memphis, Tennessee, TN.gov.
Yes, ma'am. You got it.
Okay. Paul, I have one more question. And this is because you have to be a nonprofit organization to participate in this home program?
No, ma'am. You can also be a for-profit. One of our programs that Ms. Eddings spoke about earlier is geared for nonprofit and for-profit.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. Go on.
ahead.
Well, my question. Go on, dear. Go on, dear.
That's the affordable home ownership and rental development programs.
Okay.
So take a look at those.
Okay, that's what I'm interested in because I've just begun to develop in the 38109 area, and I've actually done this. I've actually got this house almost ready to be, rented, and I want to do more. So that's what I wanted to know. Do I have to be, non-profitable? But you say nonprofit, but you're saying I don't. So I'm ready to move on, Miss Guest. I'm ready.
Okay, we're ready. Come on.
Okay. All right.
Fill out your application.
Okay, I will.
All right, thank you.
Hello, my name is Marcina. I put a question in the chat, and it's something what this other lady just asked about. Which programs specifically are only for for-profit applicants, and is the same application for all the programs?
It will be the same application, and I'll ask Jocelyn Eddings to inform you about the direct program for for-profits.
Okay, nonprofits and nonprofits and for-profits can apply for either the affordable home bill.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I think she may have frozen up a little bit. Jocelyn?
She did.
Okay, well, look at the programs as it relates to the affordable home bill program. And you would use the same application for all of the affordable housing programs.
Hi, Twala, I have a question.
Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome.
As it relates to the affordable home ownership, the programs that the for-profits are eligible for, all the home dollars will be used as loan to the project, but the city wants a first position, say in a project to do home ownership. The city wants first position on the first mortgage, or you looking just to provide construction financing with the first mortgage taking you guys out? I'm trying to, because you don't plan on leaving any home dollars in a development that's sponsored by a for-profit. Am I understanding that correctly?
You are correct. That's true.
All righty. Okay, thank you.
Will you repeat that? Will you repeat that statement he made?
Basically, he was saying that if the city wants first position, would we basically keep the, I'm sorry, something else popped up. Would we basically keep the money in as relates to that? And we would keep the first position, but since we're getting the money back, then we wouldn't be in the first position once the project has completed.
Doctor.
Ms. Guest, I have a question. So I know you said other funding resources would be favored. If you're designing or building a project, do you have to have other funding resources? And if so, will that be more favored for those, I guess, against those who do not have additional funding outside of this program?
Okay, I would suggest that you do have other funding because we would not do 100% of your project. Our money is looked at as basically as gap financing, where we're coming in, we're filling in gaps. You may go to a bank or you may go to private foundations and you may receive funding from those sources. And you may say, well, okay, my project is $500,000. But I'm missing another, let's say $30,000. You would come to us and you would say, well, can you all fill this gap as it relates to that project? And we will underwrite the projects anyway to take a look and see if your numbers are what they should be. But yes, ma'am, please make sure that you do get other sources of funding. That way it makes your entire project whole.
Okay. Is there a cap on the gap funding that you're willing to provide?
No, ma'am, we don't have a cap because we're going to do the underwriting and see how much is actually needed for the project.
Okay. And I hate to take up all the time, but I do have another question. Is more weight given to applications that say build 20 houses as opposed to one? Or, I guess the area that it affects, I guess is the application weighted heavier if you have, I guess, a lot of houses as opposed to just 2 or 3?
No, ma'am, it's not. It's really not. Because the thing is, we're all working together to continue to stabilize and just build the community and communities throughout the city. So we don't look at it and say, oh, this is just one, so we don't want to bother with that. We don't look at it that way.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, this is Cheryl Ballard. Are there any dates associated to the deadline dates? I don't remember hearing anything about deadlines.
No, ma'am. Okay. There are not. Basically, you can apply any time of the year you would like to apply and just submit your application. And like the director and deputy director was saying earlier, this process we came up with basically because people were getting funding at different times. And so we were trying to align ourselves with everybody. So people were not submitting applications to us once a year, but they weren't ready because they don't have their funding. So you can apply anytime you would like.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Guest, I'm sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, my name is Saida Clark, and I am in the beginning stages of this, which means that I just finalized my 501c3, and I just got on this webinar because I heard about the funding. So is there a first step process that I need to go through to, be eligible for this program?
A first step process. I tell you what, if you could just send me an email. Do you have that email address I gave you?
Yes,
I
ma'am. The
gave out.
HCD real estate applications at memphistn.gov.
Yes, ma'am. If you
Yes,
could just send an email and because what we need to know is basically what you're looking to do
yes,
and
ma'am.
what type of project you're looking to do. So
It-
send an email to that address,
yes,
please.
definitely. I will do that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
This is Francine Fields again, Ms. Guest. And here's a
Yes, ma'am.
question that I have. I'm going to give you a scenario. I was doing a house, a old house that was supposed to have been demolished. We went to court and we stopped the demolition. But in the process of renovating this property, neither I nor my plumber was told that the actual gas line had been severed, from the main. So we're
Yes.
right there at the very end of the of the project, and we realized that we can't get a gas meter because neither one of us knew that that main had been severed because the house was supposed to have been demolished. Now, here's my question. That gap money that you was talking about, I had MLGW says, well, Ms. Fields, you're going to have to give us $969 for us to come out and do this. Would that have been something that I could have gone to you guys and say, look, I don't have this money, but I've done all this. Do you think that I would have been able to have gotten help for that?
Now for that, because that's an issue with Memphis Light Gas and Water, and
Yes.
we would have to come in at the beginning of your project, not
I
at
got
the
you.
end.
I
Yes,
got
ma'am,
you.
because like with our compliance administrator, you heard her talking about the environmental reviews.
Mhm,
We have to
mhm.
do all of that before we put a dollar into any project to make sure that it's environmentally safe.
Got you.
So, yes, ma'am, we would have to come in at the beginning.
And that's what I'm understanding. Again, neither as an owner, I was not told by MLGW, and nor was my plumber when he pulled the permit. So we're at the very end of the project, and this pops up. So we're
Wow.
like, oh my God, what do we do? I mean, we were able to, give MLGW the money, but that really kept us, behind in our projected time. So I just
Yes.
want to know. So you're saying to me that that's good. That environmental, you just spoke of, that would be
Yes.
addressed before we even get started, right?
Well, it would be in a certain instance, but what it sounds like is because you said you all didn't find out about the pipe until later on. So did he start digging and find out about it, or how did he find out about it?
When we needed to put a riser down in order to set a meter, there was nothing there to set it to.
Wow.
That's how we found out. There was nothing there, to connect.
And I'm glad you brought that up. Let me just give everybody an FYI. When you're getting ready to work on a project, if you all could speak with Memphis Light Gas and Water, because we've been dealing with this a lot with our organizations ahead of time, and just talk to them about, the property that you're looking to purchase or the development you're wanting to do, and see if you can get somebody to actually come out from Light Gas and Water or let you know what has already been done to their property, if
Right.
anything, and that way you
Yes.
can add those costs into your budget.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Cool. Tell your mom I'm here.
All right. We are going to get ready and wrap things up. Again, I want to say thank you all to everybody who has attended. And I want to know if our deputy director would like to have something to say.
Sure. Just want to thank everyone for participating today. It's a great turnout, so we are really excited to see all of the applications that come in. And again, as our team mentioned, if you have any questions before you start completing the application, feel free to reach out to that email address, and we will certainly work with you to get your application submitted. So I think with that, we will adjourn for today. And again, we will be getting information, including the